here we go. So all are requested to attend this rapid fire round of Dr. Vikram Karkarkine. And as my guru follows the tradition of telling the disclaimer before each and every session, I would say that this rapid fire round starts with a disclaimer that the intention behind asking each and every question is sincere and honest attempt to know the personality and the thought process behind the man, Dr. Vikram Karkarkine, and it has no intention, no other intention of leg pulling or something like that sort of. Okay. So shall we move on? Are you ready?
Yes.
So there will be no hamper. The hamper is in the form of, the sincere
Virtual hamper is okay. I accept virtual hampers. I accept all kinds of Guru Dakshina.
So you would ask, it's not about Guru Dakshina, it's about, the reward of rapid fire round is in the form of hamper. So here the hamper is in the form of good wishes. And I think
I can assure you that after you ask me the questions and I give you the answers, anything that is hampering you will go away.
Okay. So my first question is, if not in the field of environmental engineering, in what field we might have seen Dr. Vikram Karkarkine?
Music, architecture.
As in?
I could have become an architect. I could have become a singer.
Singer?
Yes.
Okay. Great. What is the ultimate goal that you want to achieve in your life?
Know myself.
So that is a very short answer. You have to elaborate that. So what are the ways and means apart from Ahar Shuddhi that you adopt to achieve that goal?
Ahar Shuddhi is just a means.
Okay.
It's the vehicle one can take. We can take whatever vehicle is suitable for us.
So what is
I don't want to become anybody.
What is that destination that you want to reach?
You don't have to go anywhere. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. If you stop your pursuit, there you are. अपने आप से भागकर कहाँ जाओगे?
So giving up the pursuit is the ultimate goal of your life. That's what we can say.
We can say that. If the pursuit is of anything other than yourself, then that pursuit will take you away from yourself. And that pursuit will lead you nowhere. You will get lost.
So what is the outcome of your journey about finding yourself?
Give up everything.
So this is a very vague answer. There must be some subjective specific answer which we would like to hear.
As long as you are pursuing anything outside of you, that pursuit will be futile. At some point, the pursuit which you thought is going to bring you happiness will bring you misery. Same pursuit which you undertake with the intention of becoming happy at the end of it, that same pursuit will make you miserable. So if the pursuit of anything other than yourself is given up, then what remains is pure happiness, pure bliss. That is your own essential nature. As long as you are trying to find it outside, you will not find it.
What is the self that you have discovered throughout this study?
That is the only thing you have. That is the only thing anybody has. But people don't realize it.
True, but what is that? We want that description of that self, whatever it may be.
Cannot be described. See, don't you know, don't I know that I am or I exist? That is the truth. Anything else other than that is appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. So that which appears will disappear. that which appears and that which disappears is not real.
Can you give
That
some simple answer from the point of view of a beginner? We don't understand this type of, such a deep answer. So you have to give some
I
kind
thought
type
this
of
was a
answer.
rapid fire,
No, no,
one
no, no, no,
question,
no.
one answer,
No, no, no,
within
no.
one sentence or within one word.
No, no, no. That was not the pick.
Ask the question again.
Describe us what is your conclusion or whatever study you have about yourself in a manner which will be understood by a person who is at the beginning of the study of spirituality.
Okay, so we undertake any and all pursuits because we want to be happy, right? If I want to do something, I want to do it because I want to be happy. Or if I want to not do something, or if I want to avoid something, I want to avoid that because I want to be happy, isn't it? So I want to be healthy because being healthy makes me happy. I do not want to be unhealthy, or I do not want to be diseased because not being diseased makes me happy. So whether I undertake some things, which is called pravrutti, or if I avoid some things, which is called nivrutti, both are undertaken for being happy. So the person who goes to the temple wants to go to the temple because he wants to be happy. And the person who wants to go to the bar, he wants to go there because he wants to be happy, isn't it? And the person who wants to give up drinking does that because he wants to be happy, isn't it? When we realize that by pursuing things, by getting things, or by getting rid of things, the happiness we get is only fleeting happiness. What happens is when that thing happens. So if I want something and I get it, so by getting that thing, the desire for that thing disappears. So then what happens? I come to a desireless state of mind, at least with respect to that particular thing. Okay. So the happiness is experienced when there is no desire or fulfillment of desire, right? So our understanding is, if I have a desire, then I fulfill it, and then when I fulfill it, then I become happy. That is how we experience happiness. But happiness happens when there is no desire. Once we realize that happiness is a state of having no desires, then we realize that this is our essential nature. Then what do? We let go of all desires. We do what is required to be done. We do that with great passion. We do it as best as we can and express happiness through what we do rather than seek happiness in what we do.
Wow, perfect, perfect. Bhari. Stuff. Great. So this rapid fire round is mixed of spiritual as well as materialistic questions. But still you have to answer it.
The
So
fire is
next-
slowing down.
No, you feel it, but it's not slowing down. What is the one thing that distinguishes you from your contemporaries?
I don't distinguish myself from anybody.
But from a materialistic point of view, if you would ask this question to you, what is that one quality that distinguishes you from your contemporaries?
Yanisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato manehi. So the things in which most people are interested, even I was interested, I'm no longer interested in those things. Pursuing things because those things, those people, those events, those circumstances, those situations will bring me happiness. That pursuit has stopped. not chasing anything anymore.
So we can say that this is the thing that distinguishes you from your contemporaries.
This is the truth. If other people are chasing something else, more power to them, all the best. I have nothing against them.
Okay. What do you consider as greatest achievement in your life?
Cannot think of anything. I haven't achieved anything at all.
So is it something depressing or negative that you have not achieved anything, or what? What is the emotion lying behind this answer?
Whatever is achieved in this world is worth nothing unless you know who you are. So I would say the only purpose in life is to know ourselves. Vedaischa sarvairahmeva vedya. That is the only goal in life.
But understanding the reality or understanding the truth, is it not considered as a part of achievement?
As long as you think that the truth is apart from you or other than yourself, that is not the truth.
Great. You have digested the philosophy completely, you know. Great, great. Okay. What are the assets in your life?
I am. The very fact I am, is that not good enough? I exist.
So you mean to say you are independent. You don't require anyone's help in your life. So you don't consider the people or the objects around you as assets in your life.
आम्ही काय कोणाचे खातो रे, आमचा राम आम्हाला देतो रे. For maintaining the physical existence, we are dependent on all kinds of things and forces on which we have no control. We are being held up in our place, or we are being held in our place. We are being held comfortable in our place because of all kinds of krupa, blessings of the divine. So be aware of that at all times. Be reverential towards it. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha priyupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Even the breath is controlled by the divine. I don't control it.
Okay. What is the one thing about you that no one knows?
There are many things. There is no need to discuss everything. Why should I discuss, or why should anybody even be interested in knowing anything?
That kills the very purpose of this rapid fire round. So you can't answer like this. You have to tell something.
There is nothing that nobody knows. Somebody or the other will know everything about me. There is not one person who knows everything, but everything in my life is known to at least one other person.
Who is that?
Myself.
This is a very, these answers are not, I'm not expecting this type of answers. we consider you are giving answers to a person, we consider you as a role model, who has established himself in his career, who has done something spectacular in his life, and you are giving such answers that,
I have not done anything spectacular in my career. I have not done anything spectacular in my life. I don't consider anything I have done in my life to be spectacular.
Depends on the perception.
Correct.
If a biography is written on your life, what would be its title? Now, don't go into say that who is going to write biography, or I don't want anyone to write biography on my life. Those things are written.
If somebody else writes a biography about me, then they will write their biography. In the sense, they will write their impression of me, the way they have perceived me. If I write my biography, what will I write? Biography of a dreamer. Is the dream real? What will I write about? See, when biography is written, the biography is written only of the waking experience, right? But waking experience is only a third or a fourth of your total experience. You have a dream experience, you have a sleep experience, you have a samadhi experience. What about that? And the one who is experiencing all of that, that is me. Never born, never going to perish. What is the biography? I just am. So the biography is very simple, very short. 2 words. I am.
Wow, great. What is the secret of your youth?
Secret of my youth? I am. That's it.
How can that be the secret of you?
This entire creation is ever new. It's always new. If you identify with this newness, it's always new. Every moment is new, isn't it? So if you live in the moment, then you are always youthful. If you stick to the past, then you grow old. If there is no past, how will you grow old? There is no time is in me. I'm not in time. How will I grow old?
Okay. So the secret of your youth is that
transcending time. So you are not within your time. You are not within time. You are not in time. Time is in you. When you understand this,
can you elaborate this? You often say this, that time about time, but I don't really get into this thing about time.
Time is relative. So you are thinking the fire is rapid, but I'm thinking the fire is very slow. It is happening in the same time, right? Time is relative. Time starts when we wake up from the deep sleep. And we identify ourselves with our body. Only then time starts. Otherwise, it does not. In deep sleep, there is no time. You don't know how long you slept until you look at the clock. Means what? You have identified yourself with the body, you have identified yourself with the earth and the earth's movement around the sun. That's when the time starts. Time is relative. One day is equivalent to the time taken by earth to spin around itself. Isn't it? If you go away from the relationship of the sun and the earth, will you know what time it is? It will always be daylight. What will be one day and what will be one night? What will be 24 hours? Is 24 hours, one day, 1 month, 1 year, one yuga is a measure of time. Measure of time is not time. Just like 1 liter is a measure of liquid. 1 liter does not mean water or milk or petrol. In the same manner, 1 hour does not mean time. Time is something else. Find it out for yourself.
What is your answer for that?
The secret of youthfulness is not to pay attention to time. If you pay attention to time, you will grow old very quickly. If you stop paying attention to time, you will never grow old. If you focus your attention on yourself, never grow old.
So it's always been told to us that you have to be in the moment or you have to live in the present, but it's very difficult to implement it. So what do you suggest that how could we practice this of living in the present?
Do you have any choice? Do you have a choice to live yesterday or do you have a choice to live tomorrow?
But we are always in our thoughts. Either we are in the past or we are in the future.
Don't pay attention to them. Thoughts will come and go. Your mind is used to the flow of thoughts. The flow of thoughts is not dangerous.
But
Flow of
how
thoughts
to
is not.
how to segregate that? These thoughts come into our brain. So how to segregate that?
Don't stick to them. Don't hold them. Don't hold on to them. Then they'll come and go. If you don't hold on to them, they will not. They'll dissipate by themselves. Don't hold on to anything. Don't hold on to anything other than your awareness of yourself. Anything that appears in your mind other than yourself is mithya. It appears to be, but it is not real. It will appear for some time. It will appear to be very real. It will look real, just like the rainbow, just like the blue sky. The sky appears to be blue. Nobody can deny that. You can take a picture. You can look at the photograph. It's blue. Of course it is blue. But is the sky really blue? No. It appears to be blue. It is not blue. In the same manner, any thought that appears in your mind of anything other than yourself is only that. It's only an appearance. Don't pay any attention to that. Don't pay any importance to that. Don't think it is important.
But again with the cost of repetition, I would like to ask that what is your definition of self? Means in reference to this answer, I would like to again ask it.
If you define it, you limit it. It's just your awareness of who you are. I am, without any qualification. That is the truth. That is what our essential nature is. If you start talking about it, you limit it. You cannot describe it.
As far as
it is not describable. How can you describe your own being or your own awareness of your being? You are aware that you are. How can you prove that? How can you describe that? How can you talk about that? How can somebody else understand that? Somebody else will understand that only within themselves. You cannot really explain that to anybody.
Right now you said that any thought which is not going to give you the answer of who you are, that thought is worthless. You should not pay attention to that thought, right? So
Correct.
What is that test, on one hand you say that it is very difficult to describe who you are actually or who am I. It is very difficult to describe. So if a thought comes in my mind, how should I understand whether this thought or whether this analysis of that thought is going to give me light on about what am I actually? So unless and until I should understand something in that direction, how could I process or how could I choose between those thoughts?
When you get a thought, think about who is getting the thought. Don't focus on the thought. Focus on who is getting the thought, who is thinking. Then you will know who you are. See, when you consider yourself a mother, then the thought will be of the son. When you think of yourself as the wife, then the thought will be of the husband. When you think of yourself as the shishya, then the thought will be of the guru. So the thought will come based on who you think yourself to be. So focus on who is it who's thinking, who is it to whom the thoughts are coming. Then you will realize the one to whom the thoughts are coming is either a mithyatma or a gaunatma, not the
Okay.
chulatma,
Okay.
mukhyatma. See, our essential nature is mukhyatma, right? But we think of ourselves as a mithyatma. I think of myself as a shishya, as a wife, as a mother. The mithyatma is actually you think of yourself as the body. That is the mithyatma. And then these relative relations are all gaunatmas. Because of the body, all the relations come, right? But mukhyatma is what? You are. So when you limit yourself to something, to a mithyatma, to any mithyatma, then all these gaunatmas will appear. 2G scam, second generation.
So, what is your definition of Paramatma?
Paramatma is the supreme Atma, Param, supreme, super. In Bhagavad Gita, as it is, they call it super soul. So the Paramatma is the ultimate self, ultimate reality, which is our essential nature. But we don't understand this, we don't realize it. And we may not completely understand it while we are in the body. And while we are in the body, then we have to behave in the world, act in the world with respect to that body. So if I live in America, I live like an American. If I live in India, then I live like an Indian. So you do whatever you need to do based on where you are, what you do. I happen to be a man, so I behave like a man. I don't go to the women's bathroom. That you have to do, right? So while you are in the world, while you are in the body, you have to behave according to the norms of the time and the place, right? But never lose awareness of who you really are. So you will enjoy the experience of Dvaita, but the Advaita will never be diluted. You will always remain in Advaita while enjoying the Dvaita and while doing whatever you need to do in Dvaita. They are not opposed to each other. Okay. So if you are truly a sadhak of Advaita, then you will not be opposed to anybody or anything. Right?
So, what do you consider, means how do you perceive body as an instrument? How does this instrument should be handled properly, or what is the purpose of this instrument?
Now you are asking the right question. See, you are experiencing this world only through your body, right? So if you want to experience the world as it is, then the instrument through which you get that experience has to be very sharp, well calibrated, well oiled, well maintained. The way to do that is to utilize the body and the sense organs only for the purpose for which they are intended, and not use them as means of entertainment or enjoyment. When we use our body or when we use our sense organs as means of enjoyment or means of entertainment, then those organs become dull. Then they do not perceive things the way they need to perceive them. That is what happens. So that is the whole point of yoga or pratyahara or brahmacharya.
But this answer is from the point of view of usefulness, or how should we ideally use body as an instrument. My question is then, what is the purpose of this body? Because as far as experience goes, experience of the worldly things goes, it is moh-maya. So what is the purpose of having body as an instrument?
The purpose of having body as an instrument is to perceive things the way they are. It doesn't mean that you will not enjoy the sense objects when they come in contact with the sense organs. It's not like that. So if I see someone beautiful, then I feel great. If I hear a beautiful song, I feel great. If I eat something very tasty, it's very enjoyable. It's not that sense pleasure will not happen, but one doesn't need to dwell on it. One doesn't need to get attached to it.
But again, I would say the same thing. You have not answered my question.
Ask the question again.
What is the purpose of this body as an instrument? So we have understood the fact that we have to use it in the best way so as to understand. Means we should not
The
dwell
purpose of
upon
this
that
body as an
experience.
instrument, the purpose of this body as an instrument, the body is an instrument, and the purpose of body is to be an instrument for us to experience the truth. Okay, if I don't have the body, then I won't have the discrimination to find out whether something is true or not. So this body means not just the physical body, but the body, mind, intellect, everything. All
Yes,
of those
true.
faculties are necessary for us to understand the truth. If I don't have the faculties of this physical body, the mind, the intellect, I will not be able to understand what the truth is, right? So it's a beautiful instrument to have that nature has given us to be able to understand truth, to become the truth, right? So if we use the body only in the pursuit of truth and for nothing else, then the body is a beautiful instrument. The body will remain very healthy, always at ease, and always available for you to pursue whatever you want to pursue. But if you indulge into anything other than this pursuit, then the senses, the body, the mind, the intellect will become dull. There is no reason to do that. If you understand what the real purpose of life is, or what the true pursuit should be, then you will not indulge in these things anyway. So it says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drustvani vartate. So Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. So you can retire from objects of desire by deliberately avoiding them. You can make your deha nirahara. But rasavarjam rasopyasya param društva nivartate. So even the memory of that pleasure will go away if you pursue or you get even a glimpse of who you are.
Okay.
So when I answered this question in one of the webinars, when you had asked me this, I said, when you wanted to come first in the class, then you avoided wasting time looking at movies or going to your friends' homes and studying and so on, because you are pursuing a higher goal. So when you pursue a higher goal, then some lower goals automatically get dropped. That is called brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means somebody who is trying to pursue the truth, and because of that pursuit, everything else gets dropped automatically. It's not that brahmachari wants to remain celibate. No, celibacy happens because he is pursuing the truth. So people have all kinds of misunderstandings about spiritual practice.
Wow. Great. Good that I'm recording this conversation. Okay. Have you finished or you want to say something else?
Firing over?
No, I have questions.
Go for it.
And how to find out what is your true dharma, because the nature or dharma changes from time to time. So what is that? How to find out what is your dharma?
If there is a pursuit to find out what the swadharma is, that pursuit itself is mithya. Swadharma is self-evident. Swadharma does not need to be found out. Swadharma exists before we exist. Okay, so whatever exists in front of me as my swadharma is self-evident. If I am born in a family, I serve the family. The society in which we live, serve the society. I live on this planet, serve the planet. Because just by being born, I am indebted. So our entire pursuit should be to repay that debt. My body has been given to me by my parents, to serve my parents. I am sustained in this society by so many people. Serve them to the best of my ability. I am sustained on this planet because of the planetary forces, by nature. Serve the planet, serve nature. So all I can do is to serve. That is my swadharma. So if I pursue things for my own personal gains or for my personal pleasure, that is not swadharma. When I pursue anything or when I do anything that is for the benefit of the totality and for making other people happy, that is swadharma.
But why should I make other people happy? You know, they are living in their body consciousness.
Because you do not see other people as other than you, because you see them as a part of yourself. That's fine. So for example, you serve your child. How do you serve your child, or why do you serve your child? Who has told you to serve your child? You serve because you have experienced your child as a part of you. That is why you serve, isn't it? So if you consider when you start experiencing this entire creation as a part of you, what will you do? All you will do is serve.
Yes, true.
Isn't it?
Yes. That's it. The questions are over. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm so
So
glad.
I will pause this recording. Thank you so much, Dr. Vikram Pattarkini, for your time and your patience and for some candid answers and for avoiding some answers. But still, we are indebted to you for this great conversation. Thank you so much. Would you like to
You're
say
most
something
welcome.
on this?
I survived.